Nevertime classic taken idea from the 1936 novel by Margaret Mitchell. The movie was directed by Victor Fleming. Screenplay Sidney Howard. Cast include Clark Gable, Vivien Leigh, Leslie Howard, Olivia de Havilland, among others. Cinematography by Ernest Haller, edited by Hal C. Kern and James E. Newcomb. Music given by Max Steiner. A very protected and sly girl from the South and a tricky businessman have a complicated relationship during a time when slavery ended and the Civil War and Reconstruction happened. The movie begins on a cotton plantation in Georgia during the Civil War. The plantation owner, Gerald O'Hara, has 3 daughters, including the headstrong Scarlett. Scarlett enjoys flirting with 2 brothers and is not interested in the war until her father comes home with news. Neighbor John Wilkes, who lives on the 12 Oaks plantation, throws a barbecue party. Scarlett is infatuated with Wilkes' son, Ashley, but he does not feel the same way. As Scarlett gets ready for the party, her servant Mammy brings her food to eat, but Scarlett refuses and wants to wear a revealing dress to get attention from the single men at the party. Mammy eventually convinces Scarlett to eat, and they argue about which dress she should wear. At a picnic, Scarlett flirts with other men despite her obsession with Ashley. The women take a nap while the men discuss the war. Rhett Butler disagrees with the others, stating that the South cannot win based on pride alone. Charles is offended and challenges Rhett to a duel, but Rhett declines knowing he would win. Charles calls Rhett a coward, but Ashley believes Rhett would have won the duel. While the other girls are asleep, Scarlett sneaks out of the nap room to talk to Ashley in the parlor. She confesses her love for him, but he reveals that he plans to marry his cousin Melanie Hamilton. This angers Scarlett, as she believed Ashley loved her. She belittles Melanie's appearance, despite her being admired for her kindness. Ashley leaves the parlor, and in her rage, Scarlett throws a vase and breaks it. Rhett Butler, who had been resting on the couch, jokingly asks if a war has started. Scarlett defends Ashley when Rhett mocks him. As Scarlett storms off, Rhett laughs to himself, amused by the contradiction of Scarlett claiming to hate Ashley forever but still defending him. The war begins and many young men eagerly join the military. Charles, who is engaged to India, gets proposed to by Scarlett after she flirts with him to make Ashley jealous. Angry at Ashley, Scarlett accepts the proposal. They hastily marry before Charles goes to war. Scarlett tries to be with Ashley again, but he rejects her and only gives her a light kiss on the cheek. Sadly, a few months later, news arrives that Charles has died from an illness while serving in the war. Ellen wants her sad daughter to feel better and suggests that she goes to Atlanta to live with Melanie and Aunt Pitty Pat. Scarlett agrees, but only because she wants to see Ashley. Mammy disagrees with Scarlett's decision and voices her concern. In 1862, Scarlett attends a fundraising ball for the Confederate Army in Atlanta, even though as a recent widow she is expected to be mourning and not enjoy herself. She secretly dances behind her charity stall, receiving disapproving looks from those around her who believe she should be in mourning. Rhett Butler, known as an arms smuggler, is also at the ball and is motivated by profit rather than the cause. Melanie, who is now married to Ashley, offers her wedding ring as a contribution to the war effort, prompting Scarlett to do the same. Rhett sarcastically praises Scarlett for her consideration. An auction is held for men to bid on a dance with a girl of their choice, and Rhett wins and chooses Scarlett. This causes controversy because Scarlett is a widow, but she accepts, and while they dance, Rhett tells her that he wants to hear her say she loves him someday. Scarlett confidently states that will never happen as long as she lives. A year later, it is Christmas of 1863, and as she comes back home from the war for a short break, Scarlett, who is still in love with him, tries to win him over again but is unsuccessful. Just before Ashley is about to leave, Scarlett manages to have a private moment with him where she gives him a gift and admits that she only married Charles to hurt Ashley. Ashley asks Scarlett to promise to take care of Melanie before they share a passionate kiss. Ashley then leaves to go back to the war. After 8 months, the war continues and conditions in the South worsen. Scarlett and Melanie, who is pregnant with Ashley's child, volunteer as nurses in Atlanta. Scarlett dislikes her new role and struggles to manage Aunt Pitty Pat's home while Melanie's health declines. Scarlett witnesses the horrors of war, including a dying soldier's memories and a painful amputation. Aunt Pitty Pat leaves, leaving Scarlett and the house servant Prissy to care for Melanie. Melanie goes into labor and Scarlett, determined to fulfill her promise to Ashley, asks Dr. Mead for help. However, he is busy at the train station taking care of injured Confederate soldiers. Prissy, who had claimed to be knowledgeable about childbirth, confesses that she actually knows nothing. Scarlett takes charge out of frustration and anger. Despite the difficult labor, Melanie eventually gives birth to a son but is left very weak. Scarlett sends Prissy to find Rhett Butler, the man who can help them escape Atlanta before the Union troops arrive. Prissy finds him at a brothel owned by Bailey Watling, and despite mocking Prissy, Rhett agrees to help Scarlett. He steals a horse and cart and takes Scarlett, Melanie, her baby, and Prissy through the burning city, fighting off looters. Once outside the city, Rhett leaves them to go enlist in the Confederate Army. Scarlett begs him to stay, but he expresses his love for her and kisses her, which she responds to with a slap. Rhett gives her his pistol and walks away as Scarlett cries. The women continue their journey to Tara, traveling mostly at night to avoid enemy soldiers. When Melanie can no longer breastfeed the baby, they decide to milk a stray cow for food. They pass the Wilkes plantation, which has also been destroyed. Melanie collapses after seeing the scorched crosses marking her family's graves. They finally reach Tara, which is still standing but in ruins, as it had been taken over by Northern troops. The fields are neglected and the property has been looted. Scarlett finds her father, sisters, and 2 house servants still there, but many others have fled or been forced into the Union Army. Scarlett learns that her mother recently died from typhoid fever, leaving her father mentally unstable. With little food, no animals, and no money, Scarlett goes to the fields to clear her mind. She tries to eat a dried carrot but vomits. However, she refuses to give up and declares that she will never be hungry again. Months go by and the war is coming to an end. Union General William T. Sherman leads his forces through Georgia, causing destruction along the way. Scarlett and her sisters are working hard to keep their home, Tara, running smoothly. Melanie is still recovering from childbirth and spends most of her time in bed. One day, a renegade Union soldier enters their home, claiming he is looking for valuables. When he threatens Scarlett, she shoots and kills him. Melanie witnesses the incident and promises to keep it a secret. Scarlett finds money and other valuables on the soldier and they dispose of his body. They tell their family that Scarlett's gun accidentally went off. Scarlett plans to bury the soldier in the orchard. In the spring of 1865, after the war ends, Confederate soldiers return home. Frank Kennedy, who loves Sue Ellen, asks Scarlett for permission to marry her. Tara becomes a refuge for passing soldiers, much to Scarlett's dismay. Melanie helps them, even though supplies are scarce. A soldier tells Melanie that Ashley is alive but a prisoner. Months later, Ashley arrives at Tara and Melanie embraces him. Scarlett is not allowed to do the same. Ashley stays at Tara with Melanie and their son. During the early stages of Reconstruction, northern carpetbaggers impose heavy taxes on southern plantations, much to Scarlett's dismay. Fearing the loss of her home, Tara, she seeks solace from Ashley. Despite Mammy's doubts, Scarlett pleads with Ashley to run away with her to Mexico and start anew. Ashley confesses his love and admiration for Scarlett but cannot leave his wife Melanie and their child. He reminds Scarlett that she still has Tara and gives her a handful of its red dirt, symbolizing the loss of the Southern way of life and their move to New York City. Scarlett becomes upset and Melanie suggests they stay in Tara to support Scarlett. Reluctantly, Ashley agrees. Jonas Wilkerson, who used to be in charge of Tara and has become wealthy by working with the carpetbaggers, wants to buy Tara from Scarlett. Despite the high taxes, Scarlett refuses the offer and embarrasses Jonas by throwing dirt at him. Scarlett's father, who is mentally unstable, tries to confront Jonas but falls off his horse and dies. After her father's burial, Scarlett turns to Rhett Butler, the only wealthy man she knows, for help. However, Rhett is imprisoned by Union forces in Atlanta, who demand his Confederate gold or else he will be hanged. Despite his rank as a captain, Rhett enjoys a comfortable life in jail, engaging in activities like gambling and drinking with Union soldiers. Scarlett decides to visit him, dressed in a new dress made from curtains by Mammy. Pretending to be Rhett's sister, she tries to impress him with tales of her luxurious life at Tara, but he sees through her deception. Scarlett begs for money and even offers to become his mistress, but Rhett rejects her, explaining that using his own funds would attract the attention of the Union. On her way out, Scarlett notices Belle Watling, who seems to have money, and realizes she may have a solution. While walking in town, Mammy and Scarlett meet Frank Kennedy, who is now a successful businessman selling hardware and wood for the city's reconstruction. Frank reveals his intention to save money to marry Sue Ellen and bring her to the city. Taking advantage of the situation, Scarlett lies to Frank that Sue Ellen is getting married to someone else and expresses her own interest in him, despite Mammy's disapproval. Returning to Tara, Sue Ellen is devastated and upset upon learning that Scarlett has hastily married Frank and that he has paid off the debts of their home, Tara. Sue Ellen scolds Scarlett for already being married twice and believes that she is destined to be an unmarried woman. In 1866, Scarlett successfully manages Frank's hardware and lumber store, refusing to give credit to her poor neighbors and making profitable agreements with northern businessmen. They expand their business by purchasing a sawmill, and Tara begins to regain its former glory. Scarlett hires hungry convicts, who are mistreated by a cruel former prison overseer. Ashley is concerned about the abuse and exploitation of the convicts, but Scarlett insists on allowing it. Scarlett encounters Rhett Butler, who is now free and wealthy. He teases her about her missed opportunity to marry him and gain wealth. Scarlett dismisses him and heads to the sawmill on her own. Rhett warns her about the dangerous people in the nearby shantytown, but she proves her preparedness by showing him the pistol he had given her during the war. On her way to the sawmill, Scarlett is attacked by two men who overpower her and prevent her from using her gun. She faints in panic. However, a man named Big Sam, who used to be a slave at Tara, comes to her rescue and beats up the attackers, causing them to flee. The news spreads quickly in the town. Later that evening, Frank drops off Scarlett and Mammy at the Wilkes home while he and Ashley attend a political meeting. The women sense that something is wrong, and Melanie tries to ease the tension by reading from the book David Copperfield. Rhett arrives later and informs the women that a vigilant group has been formed to punish the attackers, but the Union Army has been tipped off, putting those at the meeting in danger. Despite Scarlett's advice and Sue Ellen's belief that he is a Yankee spy, Melanie trusts Rhett and tells him the location of the meeting. Rhett promises to help. After some time, Rhett returns home with Ashley and Dr. Meade, followed by Union soldiers. The three men appear intoxicated and claim to have been at a brothel, with Bailey Watling as a witness. The women are shocked, but the Union captain accepts the explanation and apologizes before leaving. Rhett then reveals that they were pretending to be drunk and informs them about a skirmish in the shantytown. Ashley has been wounded, but the attackers have been killed. Scarlett is more concerned about Ashley and fails to ask about her own husband, Frank. Rhett eventually reveals that Frank was killed in the skirmish and his body is still lying in the road. After a few days, Melanie meets with Bailey Watling and expresses her gratitude for helping their men by providing a false alibi. Bailey reveals that she did it for Melanie's sake rather than Scarlett's, as she has a son studying in the north. However, Bailey advises Melanie to avoid public conversations with her as it could harm her reputation. Despite this warning, Melanie insists that she is willing to talk to Bailey whenever she wants. Sometime later, Rhett goes to visit Scarlett and notices that she has been drinking heavily, despite trying to hide the smell with perfume. Scarlett admits that she is in love with someone else, but will marry Rhett because of his money. Rhett agrees to marry her, seeing them as partners in crime. They have a luxurious honeymoon in New Orleans and return to Scarlett's home, Tara, where she plans to use her new wealth to restore it. Rhett also buys a mansion in Atlanta for them to live in. Eventually, they have a child named Bonnie Blue Butler, named after her striking blue eyes. After giving birth to her daughter, Scarlett becomes depressed because she is getting older and her love for Ashley is not reciprocated. She tells Rhett that she does not want any more children and refuses to sleep with him. Rhett becomes angry and threatens to divorce her, so he goes to Bailey Watling's for comfort. Despite having valid reasons for divorce, Rhett decides to stay married to Scarlett for the sake of their daughter Bonnie. Bonnie becomes a replacement for Scarlett in Rhett's eyes, and he spoils her with everything she could ever want, including a pony and riding lessons. Rhett also ensures that Bonnie is accepted by the high society in Atlanta. In 1871, Scarlett is seen hugging Ashley by India Wilkes and Mrs. Meade. Despite the innocent nature of the hug, Scarlett is aware that rumors will spread. On Ashley's birthday, Rhett forces Scarlett to wear an inappropriate dress to the party. Only Melanie welcomes Scarlett, while Rhett becomes drunk and confronts her. He threatens to kill her but then carries her to bed. The next day, Scarlett is happy until Rhett apologizes and offers a divorce. Scarlett refuses and Rhett takes their daughter Bonnie with him on a trip to London. In London, Bonnie, a 5-year-old girl, is scared of the dark and has nightmares. Her strict English nurse believes that this experience will help her become stronger, but Rhett, Bonnie's father, disagrees and allows her to sleep with a candle on. Bonnie, who misses her mother, asks to go back to her. When Rhett and Bonnie return to Atlanta, Scarlett, Rhett's wife, informs him that she is pregnant again. Rhett reacts coldly, and Scarlett worsens the situation by saying she wishes the baby was not his. In response, Rhett says that maybe she will have an accident. Scarlett tries to hit Rhett, but he avoids the blow, causing her to fall down the stairs and lose her baby. Melanie, who is pregnant again, asks Rhett to be kind to Scarlett. They have a conversation about Scarlett giving up her lumber business to focus on her family. During their discussion, Bonnie, their daughter, insists on jumping a fence with her pony, which leads to a tragic accident resulting in Bonnie's death. Rhett is devastated and locks himself in his room with Bonnie's body, refusing to let anyone in, including Scarlett. Scarlett desperately tries to get through to Rhett but is unsuccessful. Melanie arrives at the mansion and is guided upstairs by Mammy, who is crying as she tells her what has happened recently. Rhett is refusing to talk to anyone and out of anger, he shot their pony after an accident. Melanie convinces Rhett to let her into the room and allows undertakers to take away their dead child, Bonnie. Melanie becomes overwhelmed with emotions and collapses, going into labor. After the birth of a stillborn baby, a doctor examines Melanie and discovers she is dying from internal bleeding. Before dying, Melanie asks Scarlett to take care of Ashley. Ashley is left heartbroken by Melanie's death and confesses to Scarlett that Melanie was his true love. This devastates Scarlett, as she realizes she never truly loved Ashley and wishes he had been more clear about his feelings for her. Rhett witnesses this and angrily leaves for their home.